Welcome to The Explainer. Listen, if you're a leader, a busy executive, or honestly anyone who's ever had to navigate a high-stakes, seemingly impossible turnaround, you are in exactly the right place. Today we're looking at an absolute masterclass on crisis management and resilience, and we're drawing it directly from the life of a man who orchestrated one of the greatest personal and professional turnarounds in American history, Ulysses S. Grant. We aren't just doing some dry history lesson today. No, we're going to reverse engineer his blueprint for navigating immense pressure and building a truly unyielding legacy.
But before we get into the actual strategies, I want to challenge a preconceived notion of success. So, is Grant's greatest legacy actually a failure? Now, I know that might sound completely counterintuitive when we're talking about a historical icon. In the corporate world, we usually measure legacies by wins, right? By quarterly earnings, successful acquisitions, or, in his case, victorious military campaigns. But what if the ultimate value he left behind wasn't his victories, but rather exactly how he handled catastrophic defeat?
Okay, let's dive into this. Think of Grant's life like a giant iceberg. At the top, shining in the sun, is the highlight reel everyone knows. The sweeping victories, his time in the White House, the immense national fame. But the true structural integrity of his legacy, that massive, hidden part below the surface, is built entirely on struggle and failure. Long before he was a hero, he was a guy who just couldn't seem to catch a break. His life continues to teach us precisely because of what happened in the dark. Long before the spotlight ever hit him.
Section 1. The illusion of victory, beyond the battlefield.
When most of us hear his name, this is the highlight reel we immediately think of. The Civil War victories, 2 terms in the White House, immense national fame, countless monuments carved in stone all over the country. And these are massive, undeniable triumphs. I mean, in the corporate world, this is the equivalent of taking a company public, completely dominating your market, and becoming an undisputed industry legend. It's a success story every single executive aims for. But, as we all know, success is really only ever part of the story.
Section 2. A history of hidden failures. The burden of the climb.
Take a look at these early realities. His military career stalled. Business ventures totally failed. Money was so incredibly scarce that at one point he literally had to pawn his watch just to buy Christmas gifts for his family. He was widely overlooked and considered a disappointment. And these weren't just minor hiccups. These were brutal, compounding adversities. For any executive watching, think about the sting of a failed startup, a stalled career trajectory, or a completely depleted runway. Grant experienced all of that. He was passed over. He was financially backed into a corner. He was the guy people wrote off as a bad investment. Yet he kept moving forward through one brutal challenge after another.
This timeline right here really illustrates the exhausting, almost whiplash-inducing scale of his journey. He went from a humble childhood in Ohio to literally struggling to pay rent in Galena, Illinois, and then a meteoric, chaotic pivot to the battlefields, catapulting him to the absolute peak of global power in the White House, all the way to his final resting place at Grant's tomb. This wasn't some smooth, linear climb up the corporate ladder. It was a grinding, decades-long marathon of overcoming friction. Very few lives illustrate pure, unadulterated perseverance more clearly than this timeline.
Section 3. Enduring under intense pressure. The executive case study.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is his operational response to absolute chaos. Look at this framework. When he faced failure, he didn't rigidly stick to a broken plan, he adapted. When he faced mountains of criticism from the press, from politicians, from his peers, he simply endured, tuning out the noise to protect his internal focus. And when he faced severe illness, he just continued working. Adapt, endure, continue. That right there is the ultimate executive trait, relentless adaptability and endurance in the face of massive friction.
It's absolutely crucial to understand this duality. The world saw the polished marble column, a victorious general, and a highly powerful president. But privately, it's like he was dragging a heavy chained boulder. Very few people saw the years of quiet, desperate struggle that forged his character long before the famous speeches and the celebrations. His story is just such a powerful reminder that true character isn't built during the victory lap. It's revealed during the hardship.
Section 4. The final deadline. Refusing to surrender.
Today, his memoirs are widely considered a literary masterpiece, but you have to understand the staggering context here. Grant was literally racing against terminal throat cancer, completely unable to speak. He wrote his final lessons to save his family from total financial ruin, all while staring down the ultimate immovable deadline. He absolutely refused to surrender until the work was done. When you think about it, it is the highest stakes project delivery imaginable.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ultimate leadership measure, rising again.
The ultimate takeaway from this explainer is this. The measure of a person is not how often they fall, but how often they rise again. Grant doesn't inspire us because his business strategies were flawless. Actually, scratch that, they clearly weren't. He inspires us because he kept executing when success seemed fundamentally impossible. His life is absolute proof that perseverance can outlast failure, it can outlast criticism, and as we just saw, it can even outlast time itself. That, for sure, is Ulysses S. Grant's greatest victory.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider as you log off and head back to your own leadership challenges. How often do you rise again? Seriously, when the venture fails, when the initiative stalls out, when the critics are getting really loud, what is your response? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on a truly unyielding legacy. Keep exploring, keep learning, and above all,